Alright, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Love them or hate them, and a lot of people don't love them. They are a team that often gets talked about a good amount, although they're in a very weird spot right now. Obviously missing the playoffs, and I want to start off this video by saying kind of where they're at talent-wise. If you look at PFF grades for each positional category, you see that they did not rank very well in a lot of these categories. A couple that were good, but obviously the top one, passing. Injuries were a story with the Dallas Cowboys in 2024, specifically Dak Prescott, who, at the end of the day, if you're paying a quarterback $60 million a year, you can't be ranked 27th in passing. You know, you're behind the Colts in this situation. Obviously, you need Prescott to stay healthy if you're going to be even a decent team. And listen, we can do what we want, talk what we want about is the Prescott contract a good idea or not. Ultimately, he's on the team. He's on the roster. That's just what it is. So you have to kind of move forward with that. Receiving, again, CeeDee Lamb is very good. He also got banged up. I think CeeDee Lamb's awesome, to be honest. He's one of the best players in the league. It seems impossible to say that a wide receiver for the Cowboys is underrated, but he might be underrated. He's really good. They need some other receivers, though, I think. You see the offensive line was up and down. Again, every position had injuries, it feels like. But the run blocking and pass blocking were below average according to PFF. The rushing, which was a storyline, was not great. 31st ranked in the league according to PFF, only ahead of the Las Vegas Raiders. They sort of famously or infamously did not add Derrick Henry when it seemed like there was some thoughts of maybe him going there. So, that maybe could have been nice in hindsight. You also have the 30th graded run defense, although 4th highest graded pass rush. Usually those things kind of go together. It's very rare to see a team that pass rushes very well but doesn't stop the run very well. Obviously, Parsons, a huge part of that pass rush, although not all of it, but a big part of it. Coverage was mediocre this year, which is a disappointment because, on paper it could have been great going into the year. Ends up being a disappointment. And honestly, where did the Cowboys go from here? First, they just need some of these young players on defense to start playing better. Like Trayvon Diggs needs to bounce back to being all-pro Trayvon Diggs. I'm not saying he needs 10 interceptions, but he's had better years than he had last year. That's just the reality of the situation. And of course, you need to get healthier. And more importantly, you need your key players to stay healthy. You're always going to have injuries, but you want your players to stay healthy. They do have some upcoming free agents they'll have to sign. The number next to their name is how many millions of dollars they're projected to get in free agency. You see Osa Ndigawusa, who is a very good interior defensive lineman, projected to get $21 million a year, though. Is that what you want to do for him? It's debatable. You also have DeMarcus Lawrence, who is he's been a great edge rusher. He only played 167 snaps last year due to injury, though, so that's going to bring his price tag down. Was very good the previous year, though. In fact, he was PFF's 8th highest graded edge rusher in 2023. He's a good player. If it's $8 million, you certainly would like to keep him back. You also have Zach Martin, who's good, another guy coming off of an injury, so that's going to bring the value down. Chauncey Goldson, another edge rusher, who is a good player. So they have some good free agents that they would definitely like to keep in the building if possible. If you look at their upcoming cap space situation, actually, I believe this is wrong. I believe this should be $6 million higher for both of these. The new cap came in, of course, right after I recorded like a bunch of these videos. So, unfortunately, some of the videos will be slightly off by $6 million. But, so technically they have $2 million in cap space. But essentially, this situation remains, which is they're going to struggle to re-sign some of these players. They could, if they want to, get some of them back. I think, especially the smaller smaller contracts like Lawrence, like Martin, they can probably bring back. They can make some of this work. The question is just, do they feel like kicking the can down the road, or is that not really worth it? Because the question is, I think, for the Cowboys I think they're an all-right team. If they stay healthy, could they compete for a playoff spot again? Sure. This isn't that different than a team that was going through the playoffs year after year. The one thing you just kind of have to wonder is, how did they go from being okay to really good? How did I get back to being great is the question. One good thing about having kind of an underwhelming season is you do get a better draft pick, although them kind of having a good second half of the season ultimately hurts that a little. They're going to be picking 12th in the draft. Also worth mentioning, they don't have a 4th round selection in this draft. So only 6 picks, which I don't love. You always want more than 7. Less than 7 isn't ideal, but it is what it is. That's what they have. And they've at times drafted well. Also, they've had some misses. I mean, that's kind of the state of the NFL. You're never going to bat 1,000, right? But a lot of it comes down to the Dak Prescott stuff of it too, right? Let's not forget, just 2 years ago, Dak Prescott finished 2nd in MVP voting. Now, that was kind of a historic low year for MVPs, as there wasn't really a clear-cut guy who it felt like deserved it. So Lamar Jackson ultimately got it in a year where he wasn't even at his best. He wins the award. Also, you look at Prescott's schedule that year, there was a lot of not great defenses. He did play very well, though. And so, again, Prescott's just one of those guys that people always have such different opinions on. There are people who put him in the top 5. That was a thing when I went through a lot of lists last year to see what people were thinking about the quarterbacks. He was in a lot of people's top 5 last year. He's also someone who people will say, he stinks. He's not even any good. The reality is I think he's somewhere in between those two, but I think for this team to really take the next level, he has to be a top 10 quarterback next year, and he has to stay healthy. Like, that's going to be the first part. You need CeeDee Lamb to stay healthy, and then you got to build some other pieces through the draft, and I feel like they keep trying to draft good run defenders early on, and it's not working out, but it might be a good idea to, I don't know, draft a good number 2 receiver in the first round, and then try to fill out the run defense and the depth that you might be losing in later rounds. That might be the move. Ultimately, though, you don't want to, kind of hand tie yourself too much having to go certain positions in the draft. You'd like to keep your options open and be able to draft, a good player that's available instead of a worse player that fits a need, right? But yeah, I mean, really, they're in a weird spot. And last year, they kind of famously didn't sign a ton of free agents. I think we're going to see something similar this year as well. I don't think we're going to see a massive off season, because there isn't a lot of things you can do when you have a ton of money tied up into certain players. You kind of have to work on the edges. You have to make these fringe small moves to make this stuff work. We'll see if the Dallas Cowboys can pull that off, and if they can, that's how you're going to be able to go from being okay to being great. I do think it is tough with the Prescott contract to maneuver this stuff. So the easiest way they can be great is if Prescott starts living up to the contract, which again, can't blame him this year for not. He was injured, but he's going to need to, he's going to need to play better, or not, I guess play more, I should say. He's going to need to play very well and get back to 2 years ago Dak Prescott, which is possible. But ultimately, not to say it's all about the quarterback, but for the Cowboys, that's a big part of it. But there's other small things they can do. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on their situation and where they can go from here. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.